All right, what we got here, Mo?
All right, Sifu. Okay, welcome. Okay, we've got an aged organic Da Hong Pao, and this ranges from Wuishan Mountains. These tea trees are actually a cultural icon, representing the highest honor that the Ming dynastic emperor at the time would bestow.
Will be bestowed, yeah.
So there was there's some legend behind it where, the emperor at the time of the Ming dynasty fell ill. His mother fell ill.
Fell ill.
And was nursed back to health and attributed the curative effects of the Da Hong Pao. So, gave a red robe to be placed around the tea trees and tea plants, and thus the name stuck, Big Red Robe. Okay, so to honor you, we're gonna drink this Big Red Robe.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're having Tai Chi Tea Time with Mo at Mo's Tea Shop. And one of the funny things in my time learning martial arts, one of my Shifu said to me, he said, Chester, real Kung Fu is learned not in the hard training that you set aside this hour that you're going to work out, but he says, 混出来的, meaning you just kind of absorb it while you're living. And that's quite true. Actually, I learned a lot about the martial arts from my teachers, just eating dinner with them, actually like drinking whiskey with them or baijiu with them. And it's in those times when you're just hanging out and talking and just being comfortable with each other that a lot of the truth comes out. And so we're hanging out, we're having some tea, and Mo's got all the best teas in the world. And we're going to talk about some of the really interesting aspects of Chinese martial arts, Chinese internal arts. And I'm going to enjoy awesome tea. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. So you said this is a Da Hong Cha, right?
Yes.
So what kind of tea is that?
So this is considered a Wulong Cha.
A oolong type.
And because this is a rock oolong, a yan cha, it has a lot of minerals. So oftentimes it grows in rocky terrain, rough terrain. So sometimes you'll see tea trees and plants growing around and hard rock. And
I see.
Because of that, its immune system, just like any human put through any kind of vigors of life,
Yeah.
it conveys a lot of qi, a lot of hardship actually goes into the qi of the plant.
Right. So the hardship that the plant endures is what makes the tea healthy and delicious.
Yes, and when we put it through further hardship, adding hot water, it mutates and confers even greater to unlock the qi.
So that seems really relevant to Kung Fu training and this kind of experience, doesn't it?
Yes. So one question about qi. Where do we first see the first signs of qi? Is it the Taoist tradition? Is that correct?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. And it goes back to what even is an internal martial art and what does qi have to do with all of that? And so we are going to go back. We were talking about this, the emperor of Ming Dynasty. We're going to go back about that far. Okay. So as far as I know, one of the earliest big definitions of what is an internal martial art and what is an external martial art came from the 16th century.
Okay.
In the 16th century. And the definition was that martial arts, which originated in China, is called an internal martial art. And martial arts that have the origin brought in from outside of China was called an external martial art. So we're having tea, but if we talk beers, we're talking about domestic beer versus imported beers here. Domestic martial arts and imported martial arts. So what are the examples of them? So Shaolin is a really famous Chinese martial art, but it was developed by, it was inspired and started by the monk Damo. Damo traveled from India to China to see how the Buddhists were doing in China. And then the story goes that he saw that they were meditating, but their back hurt and stuff, and they couldn't stay there for long enough to achieve enlightenment. He said, we got to do some physical conditioning. And from the physical conditioning he taught them, we developed Kung Fu. So you might say that origin of that comes from India. And Buddhism as a religion is brought from India, from Gautama Buddha in India, right? So that would be an imported martial art, even though it's very Chinese culturally nowadays, right? And so they would say that Tai Chi from Wudang Mountain and other martial arts are developed by Chinese people from their own inspirations within China based on Taoist theories, elemental theories, and yin and yang theories. These would all be in the category of an internal martial art. So the earliest definition is very much a political thing, and it got politicized, and like just like today, that gets unpleasant and unnecessary, right? So that's the first definition, and we moved on from that. So let me try a bit of this tea.
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah. That's good. It's got the fragrantness that the oolong have, but it's kind of got like a richer body, like a fuller body to it.
Yes, and oolong is known for having lots of volatile oils, and the way they process it is they have to kill the green. So get rid of the bitter tannins and the tannic aspects of what makes a green tea unique. And as a result, they bruise the leaf, and over like many iterations. Before it was used in a like some kind of wrap, rolled into a ball and rolled.
Yeah.
But nowadays there's machinery that does that.
Oh, I see.
So it's a easier method.
It's not hand rolled anymore.
Right. Right. And so this is known as like a tea that can calm the lungs.
Yeah.
Hydrate. So you would drink this for the mineral content.
Mineral content.
So minerals, I find, help us with digestion, with activating energy within the body. And because the liqueur is a little bit on the amber side, like getting a little bit more oxidized, it's a vasodilator, so it relaxes
your blood vessels. Nice.
So better qi flow, better flow.
Blood flow, yeah.
It's more like a body sensation where the
Feel it.
body can relax.
Yeah.
Very grounding, right?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
like it's not so super caffeinating, but it's very like relaxing at the same time.
Yes.
So we're talking about qi flow and blood flow. So I talked about domestic versus imported Chinese martial arts, and that doesn't actually involve qi in any way. That's totally political, right? That's just like where it's from and who made it, right? So we haven't gotten to how qi got into this whole business of internal arts. So in the later on, like another popular definition of internal and external martial arts came from Sun Lutang and the Guoshu Guan. So the Guoshu Guan was a institution, an academy, or like a university, like the Harvard of Kung Fu, so to speak, right? Established in the 1900s from the best martial arts I could find in China. They got the best fighters, the best teachers, and they formed the faculty. And so they divided into two schools, the Shaolin School and the Wudang School. Okay, and then the Wudang School was headed by the great master of Tai Chi, Xingyi, and Bagua, Sun Lutang. And so those are the styles we tend to think of as being internal. So they would ask him, like, well, what is an internal martial art that is different from the external martial arts? How is this Wudang School versus Shaolin School different? And that's not a perfect definition because Xingyi is not from Wudang, Tai Chi is probably not from Wudang, and Bagua is probably not from Wudang. So they just sort of use this mountain that's got some mythological, like some like street cred, like the Wu-Tang clan type of situation. So he said, oh, he gave various definitions. One was that the movements should be reversible. So how you do it, if the movement can go out one way, it can come back in the same way. Okay, you can do this, you can go both ways. And that seems like a very odd definition, but I think what he was trying to do was mainly trying to distinguish from the external arts. There's arts like praying mantis, tongbei, these kind of martial arts. So those movements, they don't reverse. So you go out like this, it doesn't come back the same way. It feels better if you continue the loops. But when you rewind the loops, it's kind of odd. So those don't rewind well. These are move styles that use elastic force. We'll come back to that later, meaning you like wind up your body like a bow and you shoot it out, right? So the way you throw a powerful overhand in boxing, it doesn't quite rewind back in the same way. You go through and you come back to your guard. So he said, okay, it should be reversible. But that doesn't rule out other styles that are popularly external, like Changchen, long fist, or Tan Tui. Oftentimes the movement for those kind of things, let me show you real quick. Yeah, like if you did any northern martial arts, it's very common. So this kind of movement is very reversible.
Okay.
So that was not quite it. So they're like, okay, so is Tan Tui internal? Is long fist internal? And it's like, oh, no, that's not internal. So you gave another definition that was like, in an internal martial art, the fist must rotate when it goes out. So this doesn't rotate. This is not internal. It's got to rotate. But then there's a lot of martial arts where the fist rotate.
Right.
Like in this country, in Western countries, lots of it, right? Pretty much that means Western boxing is very internal. So he went on and on like this, giving different definitions to help distinguish the basically his major, the Wudang internal arts from the other arts. So I think those were just trying to distinguish these things, but it still doesn't get at what is Qi and how does Qi have to do with internal martial arts and so forth. So where does that come from? What the most established, most respected source of that concept of Qi and internal martial arts came from this man named Chang Naizhou. He goes back to the 18th century. And in the 18th century, he went out and surveyed a bunch of different martial art styles and health practices of Qigong and enlightenment. And after doing a ton of research, he wrote this manual, a summary of Chang family boxing and their findings. Okay, and in this manual, he discussed what he learned from the different martial arts, how they relate to each other, and what is the essence of what ended up forming the Chang family martial arts. And he said that essentially, he discussed 4 types of martial arts. Ones in which you used an elastic force. So we talked about elastic force just now. And so those are styles in which you wind up your tendons, like bows and arrows, and you release them in elastic, explosive ways. One kind of martial art, and that's very popular in China. All the tongbeis and stuff are in that category. Another one is in which he said you worked with the qi in your body, and when you use the qi in your body to guide your movement, to power your movements, then it made your movements fast and strong and smooth. They had these special characteristics that made them more effective. That were not maybe more effective, but uniquely effective versus the elastic ones. Make sense so far?
Okay.
And he talked about another type of qi called zong qi, central qi, center qi. And he said zong qi exists between heaven and earth, and it's all around us. And you learn to harness that qi to guide your movements, and that qi produced yet another type of movement that has its own unique characteristic that was uniquely smooth and effective. It would be very quick. It would be hard to read that it's happening, and it felt very smooth and effortless, and you could do these things into your old age. So that's very similar to what in our school we call the Ling Qi, the spiritual Qi, spiritual body Qi that is outside of us but can come through our body and can affect our movements. And the 4th type, he talked about practices that was very much focused on helping you achieve enlightenment and also improving your health along the way. So there was like kind of a medical spiritual tradition of Qigong that he surveyed and discussed in that book. So that book was very, very deeply respected in that era and the eras after. So everyone that studied martial art that wanted to know about Qi and in which it was a big part of their practice read that book and really, really studied it. And he wasn't a nobody. So he and his father both tested in the Imperial National Military Examinations. So back then, it was very much a meritocracy. So you maybe went to school, maybe you didn't go to school, but when you come of age, you would go take an exam run by the government. There's a military one and a civilian one. If you do the civilian one, it means you read well and reasoned well. It's kind of like an LSAT, right? Your logical skills and your knowledge of history. Then you would get a job in the bureaucracy of the civil government. You could be a judge or administrator. The military exam was hardcore. You had to fight people. You had to demonstrate horse riding skills, horse riding over obstacles and whatever. You had to demonstrate archery skills. You had to demonstrate a number of weaponries that are essential in the Chinese military. Spear, saber, and so forth. You had to be, it's like a decathlon of military skills. Okay, so it's not just like you demonstrate your move and it looks pretty and you get a pass. No, you had to demonstrate all kinds of combative skills that are good for one-on-one and good for the battlefield, and you had to fight people. And if you based on how you did on that, you get placed in the military. You could be a grunt, which is not very good, neither good pay or good longevity, or you could be like a general and so forth. So Chang Naizhou, he placed let's talk about his father. His father, they're a family of military martial artists. His father placed in the 2nd top category. And so if you're a top category, you're pretty much like you get placed to be a 5-star general, or you're like the captain of the SEAL team, something like that. As good as it gets. There are only a few people in all of China, which have millions of people, that can get that high. Second tier means you're like a 4-star general. You know, you're like an admiral or something like that. And then Chang Naizhou himself got the third top category, which means you're like a 3-star general. So you're well above a typical commander, and so like, and you're given a lot of responsibility, a lot of men, a lot of and so forth. So they were legit, you know, fighting men. So this was not like not the little rowdy, not like nerds reading about stuff and writing like a
Put
fan
through
fiction.
the test.
Yeah, they were put through the test, and so it's very interesting that the top military officials who plan military events and determine how soldiers be trained respected this kind of internal concepts of Qi and martial arts. And so that went on to be pretty much a basis of how Qi became an important part of martial practice for people who cared about that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's very interesting. That document is a pain to read.
Okay.
Because it's the 18th century, and he wrote in the 18th century archaic Chinese, so it's kind of like Old English. There's got his own grammar. And also back then, they don't use punctuation marks. So it's just like words with no punctuation and
no breaks in between or no.
Yeah. Even for my Chinese reading skill, that was pretty challenging to read.
Oh, wow.
But it's very, very, like a lot of information in there. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about today? I mean, there's infinite amount to talk about,
right.
but we can always have more tea and have more discussions.
Yeah, it's a definite journey, and I think that anyone from like grapplers to stand-up and mixed martial arts to practitioners of like weapons and HEMA, I think that the internal arts hold very true from like in the 1600s all the way to present day.
Yeah.
But I think that it's threatened to be lost, and really appreciate you
Threatened to be lost.
Disseminating this so
More people can enjoy it and benefit
accessible.
from it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think so. I enjoyed those external arts. I enjoyed sword fighting and jiu-jitsu and all kinds of stuff today too. So I think it's fun to be able to expand our world and benefit from all the things that are good for us. So I agree with you that this is a precious knowledge that could be lost. We're not going to let it get lost. We're going to keep having tea and spill all the secrets, but we won't spill the tea.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. All right. Thank you for joining me on
you.
this. Thank you guys for watching with us, and we'll see you next time.